Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Michele and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stamping Up. Oh, I'm glad to be sitting down. The last 5 or 10 minutes been running around trying to change lights, fix lights, um, because my usual light wasn't giving a very good look. So I can now relax and let's get into some crafting. So before we go to my desk, please comment. Please let me know if you're watching. If you've never been on here before, please tell me your name and where you're from, because it's always great saying hello to new people. And today we're going to be looking at another new stamp set from the mini catalogue, which will be going live as of the 6th of September, which is only about 5 days' time. So everything is getting quite exciting here with that. Hi, Glenda. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, I'm going to flip my camera over. As per usual, I've got a few bits and pieces pulled out. I have sort of decided what I'm doing on some things, but not on others. But we're going to have a play because this is quite an interesting stamp set. I have used it once before, but it seems to be, well, I'm hoping you can see that and there's not too much of a glare with my lighting. Move it over this way a little bit more, might be better. Okay, so this is Radiant Light. It's a cling stamp set. There's 8 stamps in it. It doesn't have any coordinating dies or anything. Hi, Lorraine. How are you? Excuse me. My throat's just decided to go a bit croaky. It is a little bit of a whimsical style stamp set. It's almost like it's all been hand-drawn. But I purchased it because I really like these candles. So I'm going to do something with that. I've had a little bit of a look on Pinterest. I don't think many people have actually played with this one as yet. Hi, Lenny. Welcome. So we're going to have a little bit of a play. I'm going to be using the watercolor pencils and I'm going to be using vellum. The card base I've chosen is Flirty Flamingo. And I'm teaming it. I'll just show you where I'm getting my inspiration from this from. I have saved the photo on my phone, so just bear with me. There we go. Don't know whether you can see that. I'm not using, well, I don't know what colors. I've matched these as close as I possibly can to Stamping Up colors. So, but we don't have all those colors in our pencils. So this one here is almost like a wild wheat. But in the pencils, I'm going to be using the crushed curry for that one. Of course, you've got white. You've got these 2 colors here. So I'm using the Flirty Flamingo. But to get a lighter shade of Flirty Flamingo, I've got a piece of vellum, which I'm going to pop over the top just to tone down the depth of the Flirty Flamingo, because we don't actually have like the same sort of colouring toned down. So I'm going to be using the vellum for that. And then there's this lovely green. Now it's a really sort of an olivey green. With the pencils, I've pulled out a few different colours in that. I have got old olive, I've got garden green, and I've got granny apple green. And I've, of course, got the Flirty Flamingo there, but I've also got Calypso Coral. So that's where I'm getting my inspiration from. I just this morning Googled what colours were coming up for this year for Christmas. So there seems to be, running theme seems to be like a wild wheat type colour. So whether you use like the wild wheat with your darker tonings, I think, the pretty peacocks and things like that. But then you've also got these softer tonings. Hi, Anne. How are you? So that's where I'm gaining my inspiration from today. So we're going to have a little bit of a play. As I said, that's my card base. Now, the areas I'm going to bring in my white, I have got here a piece of basic white cardstock, which I've already embossed. and I've embossed that with one of the 3 embossing folders, which is the basics that you'll find in the exclusives on my shop. So I'm not quite sure as yet how I'm going to do this really. I've got this piece here, which is just a little bit smaller than my basic white, but I'm thinking of actually cutting this down. So what I want to do is work out first where we're going to position things. I'm actually going to do my stamping and my colouring on my vellum, not on my cardstock. So look, let's just get playing, because in some respects, I mean, I've embossed my basic white because just the fact that if I decide to use this as a full piece and cover that up, I can. But if I decide to cut this and my vellum down, I've got a decorative piece underneath. So that's sort of my reasonings there. Really not a lot of thought. I've been doing a little bit of playing here with using Memento and using StazOn ink and colouring it with pencils. I've decided that the best way to go is I'm going to use my StazOn. It'll dry a lot quicker. I'm not using any water on this. So, because as you know, when you're using right there, let me get this the right way around. With StazOn, I can use water, but I'm not going to be using any water. So, let's just get started, because I'm starting to talk gobbledygook and we really don't want to hear me just chatting away. So we're going to start by stamping move all these away here, stamping on our piece of vellum. Now I'm going to stamp in the middle, which if I do trim a lot of this away, we are going to lose a lot, like it's a lot of wastage in vellum, but really I'll keep all those little bits for something else anyway. So I'm just inking up this in my StazOn pretty well. I'm going to line up my paper there on my grid paper. Now let me just move it up a little bit so you can see that. And I'm just going to stamp this roughly in the middle and maybe slightly more towards the top. Whoops, don't flip it over like that. Luckily nothing has moved. It's just the StazOn ink tends to be a little bit sticky, and I decided to juggle it. Okay, so let's just lift that, and that's still ink stamped up quite well. Okay, so we're just going to let that just dry off a little bit. I'm going to grab another piece of basic white, and I'm going to do a little bit more stamping. Now just let me grab a piece here. I've got a little pile of basic white here, and we're going to stamp our sentiment. Now I'm going to still carry on and use the StazOn, not for any particular reason, just for the fact that it's the ink I've got out at the moment. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment on that piece there. Of course, you could just use a scrap of basic white cardstock, because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fussy cut that. So let me just grab my scissors. I'm just giving that vellum piece a good chance to dry. So I'm just going to use my paper snips here, and I'm cutting as close as I can, leaving only sort of like a tiny little bit as a border. Just going to cut that away. And I'm just moving the paper around and keeping my scissors straight. I just want the tiniest of borders around that. Put away that excess there. I'm not taking that all the way in, but I am going to go a little bit in there. Okay. So there's our sentiment. Now, I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to put a little bit of colour with that or not. Hi, Joan. How are you? Hope you're having a lovely day. But that's our start. So we should have this piece reasonably dry by now. Now, you could colour on the back of it or you could colour on the front of it. This one here, I was sort of playing around a little bit, and I've coloured some of them on the front, some of them on the back. It really didn't matter. I just found that the Memento ink on this was just bleeding a little bit too much, taking a little bit too long to dry. So I'm going to start colouring this, and I'm going to do my candles first. And I've made sure my tips of my pencils are nice and sharp. And I'm colouring on the front. And I'm not going to be using, even though these are watercolour pencils, I'm not going to be adding anything in here to blend them or anything like that. I just want to colour in the surface area. So even though these are white, I'm still putting white in there, because if we pop our cardstock underneath that, it's making that sort of stand out a lot whiter. So I'm just laying lots of the colour from the pencil down on that. Now it is dulling the lines that Stampin' Up have given us on the stamp. You could come in with a grey pencil, which we might do yet, and just re-highlight some of those lines. And I'm just going to keep coming back and putting that underneath just so that I can see where we've got colour and where we haven't. Okay, so I'm going to do now the fern pieces that are coming behind, and I'm going to do my fern in the garden green. So really, I'm just very loosely following the lines that Stampin' Up have given us in their stamp. It's just really to add some colour. So all I'm doing is just drawing lines, not really colouring anything in. So once I'm happy and I've done all those, then we can move on to Old Olive. And I'm going to do a lot of these ones here in the Old Olive. Now, of course, you could do them all in the one colour, but I just think having different colours, because leaves are all different colours. They're not all the same colour. Just colouring, just having a really nice day, just doing a little bit of colouring in. And then with the Granny Apple Green, I've got a few other leaves in here. Oops, there's one other leaf just there. And I'm going to do some of these other ones just in this green, just to add contrast again. Could actually bring in a little bit of that garden green into those leaves and blend it into that granny apple green. Take a little bit of that yellow off. And then the berries, I'm going to come in with the Calypso Coral and just colour those in. And there's not too many berries there. There's only a few. Okay, so it's as simple as that. It's quite easy. And as I said, if you want to, you can bring in, you just grab the grey here. So this is just your basic grey. Just add a little bit of that, those lines back in that we lost when we coloured over the top. Just have a look at that. So that's just standing out really nicely on there. So I'm just going to pop all those to one side. So now we're going to decide exactly what how we're going to layer this. So I've got my card base here, and I will put all my measurements up on my blog. They're fairly standard measurements with half a sheet of cardstock. Grab a foam folder here and just give that a really good burnish. Okay, so that's going to go on there. They even look quite good with that on there, but I want to have a little bit of this underneath. But at the moment, I'm sort of thinking, and I'll pull in one that I was playing with a little bit earlier, if I can find it. Playing with it on another colour. Here we go. And I was just playing, and I was thinking something along those lines there. So I think that's what I might continue to do. So this one here, I've trimmed this down, and that is actually around about just under 6 centimetres. So it's about 5.7. So let's just trim that down, these down here to be of a similar width. So 5.7 would be about there. Just about 2¼ inches. So this one here, I've also trimmed this down to 5.7. That's going to go over the top of that. So if I bring these back in, don't bend my cardstock. And the idea is that, so it's just a very, very simple card. There's nothing really complicated about it. So let's put this together and then see what else we could do. So we'll start by adhering these two together. Just love a little bit of texture there on my cardstock rather than just always having it plain. So these two I'm going to adhere together, but I'm going to adhere them together by putting the glue just on those coloured areas. I'm just adding a little bit of glue. I'm trying not to use too much and just add the glue underneath those coloured areas, and that's just so then it hides it. Just give that a real gentle push there because I don't want that to change about. So that's just keeping, so we've got the now lighter tone of the darker one from underneath. Now we could, if we want, if I can get it out, just excuse me, it's tucked in behind my lighting here. So I'm just going to pick up that, move it forward, and grab my Essential Baker's twine. Let's pop that back again. Oh, and just knock something else over. Oh, I'm going to have to order myself some more of this. Because this has got it's not a real formal sort of looking card, you could sort of play around with adding some thread on here. So let's just have a look. And a bow. I'm not going to cut anything until I know. So if we pop that there, it's going to go about there. And that over the top. Okay, I think that could look quite nice. I think it just needed something a little bit more. And of course, if you've got any ideas, throw them up here and let me know. Sometimes the having someone else to give you an idea or to bat an idea with is good. Let's have a look at this bow. Might just retie that. That's just sometimes too, grabbing a reverse pair of tweezers, and I've got a few pairs here. Just to hold that. Okay, let's have a look. We got a better Bit of bow happening. It's still a little bit all over the place. Not having much luck today, am I? Don't want a big bow, and I don't want that curling. Okay, let's pop this on dimensionals. Hi, Deborah. How are you? Pop that onto here. I've got about a centimetre from that edge across. Let's just trim that back down. Get rid of those. Now our sentiment. Do we need a little bit of colour on that? Or just maybe a little bit of shading with that? So I do have one that I was playing with earlier. So just to sort of, no, I think just not quite sure. Might just add a little bit just on that inside rather than all over. Just a little bit there, just on that inside. Maybe just a tiny, very light feathering. Just keeping that really, really just so it's got a little bit of tiny weeny little bit of colour there, but not too much. So I really want that white to be, that doesn't look so flat anymore. Okay, so I'm going to pop that also on dimensionals, but this area here is going to have to go up on double dimensionals because it's a lot higher. This section here is lower because of the dimensionals underneath this panel. So let's just pop single layer dimensionals over here. And I've wanted the dimensionals there just to sort of give me a bit of height over that twine. And then I just want to do double dimensionals more thumbs and fingers today. Fingernails are starting to break off. See if this is going to be Might be too wide, too big. Let's have a look. No, it'll just fit in there. So I've made that one just that little bit thicker. Don't need too many dimensionals. You could have used the minis. Just to give that little bit of height there. Just really want just a very sort of sweet card. Okay, so that's it there. Now I just don't know whether we need to add anything else. There was one other thing I was going to try. Okay, I've got the fine tip glue. I've had it for a long time. I know I believe it's still in the catalogue. And I'm just going to pop on these berries just to help these berries to pop out a little bit more. I'm just going to grab a scrap here. Make sure, yep, I don't have any blockages. And I'm just going to add a little bit of glue on each one of those berries. And all that's going to do is hopefully dry. Make sure you put the lid back on these. You get that pin through that center, because otherwise it will glue up and harden. And I'm just going to grab another little piece of paper here because I think I've got a bubble in that. So I just want to see if I can pop that bubble. And all that's going to do is just add a little bit of gloss to those berries. You probably can't see it because there's only 4 little berries on there. And I don't think there's any sort of I don't have enough of that. I'll check whether I can still get more of those. Don't want to go pearls. I just want to stay fairly matte. So these are in the mini catalogue. These could look quite nice. Let's just have a look. Oops, some of these moved. Must be stuck up inside there. Yep. Okay. Could have even popped these on the berries instead of the other. Don't know whether I can actually. You know, just being very careful. I don't know how much of a mess I'm going to make. All I'm doing is just, I'm scooping up that glue. And I'm going to pop these on top. Probably making a mess here. At least now you'll know what not to do. Then to do. Or you've got a couple of variations of what you can do. Oh, doesn't that look pretty now? See those? And then I'm going to add, even though these probably aren't the sort of same colours, but I'm going to add a couple of these. These are really pretty. These are the blooming pearls. So that one there is in Pretty Peacock. I'm not quite sure what that one is. Probably the Lost Lagoon. And then, of course, you've got your gold. So, but I've got 4 of these. I might add an extra one just because you do want odd numbers. And no one will really know there's not one underneath there. So there's 5 there. Okay, would you add the gold? Yeah, they are a little bit retro looking. Would we add the gold, or would we add some more of the pink, or even this particular green here? So I don't know whether you can actually, that green has got like a little bit of a gold toning to it. I can't even remember now what suite that came with. I think I just liked them and I thought I'd just get them. So which one? Should we add some more bling on here, or just leave it at those few, or just add some more of the Flirty Flamingo? Or I'm not even quite sure whether that's really bubble bath, but I'm going to say it's Flirty Flamingo. Or should we add one of the greeny gold ones? Because we could add one here, one there, 1, 2, and the third one up the top. So I feel it needs something. Any ideas, ladies? You're going to leave it all up to me. Okay. That's the pink. That's the gold. I think the gold could be too gold. Yeah, I'm thinking the greeny gold one too, because the greeny gold one is actually picking up some of those other colours. I'm going to pop a big one there. And then I'm going to pop a little one there. And I'm just thinking, well, I'd make this into little groups of 3. I don't usually use this amount of bling, but that's okay. Always buy some more. How about that? There's lots of bling on that now. And I think that's it. No more bling. So there you are. So we've used these ones, the pink ones from that, has added like a little berries in there. Excuse me. And we've added some of these green ones, and they do pick up a bit of the gold, and they even pick up a bit of that pink colour in them. So I think they're quite pretty. Now, the only thing I have to do is add something on the inside. So let's get another piece of basic white. Almost forgot. Let's trim this piece down, because it's a quarter of a sheet of cardstock. And I'm going to trim it down to half a centimetre off. These are the other stamps in there. And I think I might just grab that stamp there. Maybe even that sentiment. Stamp that. And I'm going to stamp this, line this up. About there. Almost lost this one. Now there is a second stamp in that, and I might grab it. So it's the same stamp in two different directions. Let's grab another small block. That in that direction. Just put a little bit of colour. Much, just a bit. And let's pop that on the inside. Now, who's looking forward to the new designer series paper coming out on the 6th of September? Some really exciting pieces in amongst it. You are, Deborah? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's going to be some pieces that going to be quite a bit of fun, I think. Move that out of the road before I get ink over everything. So there we are. There's the front of my card. And now I've done the inside, just keeping it really simple because it is a very simple sort of design. And as Linny said before, it is a little bit retro looking. So I hope that this is a stamp set that maybe you may have overlooked and have seen now a different way that you can use it. But I just thought colouring it on the vellum and then that vellum acting as a tonal piece to tone down that flirty flamingo to give me two tones of the same colour. So I hope you've enjoyed my card today. I will blog it over the next couple of days and put up all the measurements and everything in there, but it's fairly standard measurements. Okay, well, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you can join me on Tuesday night where we'll make another card. And I hope you all have a lovely weekend. So take care. And again, thank you very much for joining me. I do love having these chats with you and sharing this time in my craft room with you. So bye for now.